The phone buzzed at 3 a.m., pulling Emily Parker from fragile sleep. Her heart pounded as the screen lit with Daniel Reed's name, yet when she answered, silence mocked her. The call ended before a word was spoken, leaving her trembling in the dark. She whispered, "Daniel, why now?" But no reply came, only the heavy sound of her breath. Minutes later, a message arrived. "We need to talk." Her chest tightened, words collapsing into dread. The tiny glow of the screen burned like betrayal, a knife cutting through fragile trust. Her hands shook, scrolling through old messages that once carried warmth, now only reminders of fading promises. Emily said, "Don't do this to me, Daniel," though she knew he couldn't hear. The shadows on her walls seemed to press closer, as if they too carried the weight of his silence. She sat curled on her bed, staring at the glow, wondering if oceans had finally drowned their love. The night no longer felt safe, only hollow. Outside, the city slept while her world cracked quietly apart. Her faith was unraveling thread by thread, and her whispered plea vanished into the dark. Emily lay awake, clutching her phone as if it could anchor her. She whispered, "Daniel, please pick up," even though she knew he was oceans away. The silence stretched cruelly, filling every corner of her room. Her memories of late-night laughter fought with the ache of absence, each one stabbing sharper than the last. She thought of his promises to never let her feel alone, yet here she was, staring at empty walls. She wondered if love meant waiting forever or breaking quietly. The city outside hummed with distant life, yet her world had collapsed into stillness. She closed her eyes, replaying every moment he said he'd fight for them. The echo of those words felt heavier now, like ghosts. She pressed her forehead to the pillow and whispered again, "Don't leave me hanging, Daniel." Her chest ached, and the night grew colder. Daniel's silence became louder than words. Emily stared at her screen, checking for any sign of him, yet none came. She said, "You promised to call," voice cracking in the still air. Each second stretched like an eternity, her thoughts filling with doubt. She wondered if Chloe Adams, the friend Daniel mentioned, was more than a friend. The thought pierced like glass. She scrolled through old photos of Daniel, smiling and carefree, each one now heavy with suspicion. "Why are you drifting away?" she whispered, clutching her pillow. She wished for the warmth of his voice, the comfort of his laugh, but all she had was emptiness. Her heart begged for truth, but fear told her it might break her completely. The minutes became hours, and Emily's mind spun in restless circles. She remembered Daniel once saying, "Distance can't kill us." Now his silence was proof it could. She bit her lip until it bled, gripping her phone so tightly her knuckles turned white. "Where are you, Daniel?" she whispered into the dark. Shadows on the wall grew longer, pressing against her. Her parents' disapproving voices echoed in memory, warning her love across oceans would only bring pain. She ignored them then, but tonight, their words haunted her. She longed for Mark Turner's blunt honesty, the friend who often told her Daniel wasn't worth the pain. Still, she couldn't let go. Her heart clung stubbornly, even as cracks widened inside. Emily pressed the phone to her chest, rocking back and forth. She whispered, "Please fight for us, Daniel," her voice breaking. She imagined his world far away, full of faces she would never know. The thought of Chloe Adams laughing beside him haunted her, tearing her apart. Tears streamed down her cheeks, soaking her pillow. Her body ached with exhaustion, yet her mind clung to hope. She remembered their first call, his promise that nothing could break them. Tonight, those words sounded like lies. "Why do I feel like I'm the only one holding on?" she muttered. Outside, dawn's first light crept slowly, yet Emily felt only darkness within. The night had stolen her trust, and morning offered no peace. Morning sunlight crept into Emily Parker's room, but it brought no warmth. She scrolled through her messages again, each one replaying Daniel Reed's promises. She whispered, "You said distance would never matter," though her chest felt hollow. The emptiness of his silence was louder than traffic outside. She clutched the old photo of them at the airport, the one where he kissed her forehead, and said he'd call every night. Her hands shook as she traced his face in the photo. "Why am I fighting alone?" she murmured. Her heart ached, knowing she had built her days around his calls, his texts, his digital presence. Emily thought of the nights she skipped gatherings, waiting by the phone that rarely rang. She carried the weight of sacrifice, but wondered if he even noticed. The glow of her phone mocked her as another day began. She curled tighter, afraid of losing more than sleep. The silence pressed in, reminding her that love, without effort, was nothing more than an echo. Emily walked into the kitchen, phone still in her hand, as if afraid to miss him. Mrs. Parker frowned, placing coffee on the table. "You can't keep living like this," she said. Emily replied softly, "He loves me. He just needs time." Mr. Parker rustled his newspaper, his voice firm. "Time won't build bridges across oceans, Emily." Their words weighed on her, but she refused to break. She thought of Daniel Reed's smile, the one that kept her going, the one she couldn't let go of. She whispered, "He'll come through, I know it." But inside, doubt gnawed at her heart. Her parents' disapproval echoed louder than her own hope. Emily felt caught between their stern reality and her fragile faith. She took a sip of coffee, its bitterness coating her tongue, grounding her in the silence. Yet her phone remained on the table, glowing with unanswered questions. Hope and defiance clashed inside her, stronger than hunger or rest. Later that day, Emily sat with Mark Turner at a quiet cafe. He leaned forward, concern etched into his features. "Emily, you're wasting yourself on him," he said bluntly. She shook her head, forcing a small smile. "Mark, you don't understand. Daniel and we've been through so much." Mark sighed, voice softer. "I've seen you cry too many nights. He should be the one fighting for you." Emily's hands trembled around her coffee cup, heat rising against her palms. She wanted to believe Mark was wrong, yet his words struck deep. She thought of the countless hours she spent waiting, hoping, sacrificing, while Daniel Reed drifted farther. Her heart ached, torn between loyalty and truth. "I can't let go," she whispered, more to herself than to him. The cafe's chatter faded into background noise as she drowned in the war between love and reality. Night fell again, and Emily lay in her dark room replaying Daniel's old voice messages. His laughter once lit her nights, but now it cut deep. She whispered, "Why can't you call me anymore?" The messages felt like ghosts, haunting her with false warmth. She remembered Daniel once saying, "Even if the world falls apart, I'll always choose you." Now she wondered if he still meant it. Emily pressed the phone against her heart, aching for closeness that was only digital. Outside, the city glowed, alive with connections she couldn't touch. She imagined him laughing with Chloe Adams, and the thought suffocated her. Tears stung her eyes as she whispered, "Please, don't replace me." She clung to every recorded word like it could keep her alive. Yet, her chest told her the truth she didn't want to admit. Distance was not their enemy. It was his silence. Emily sat at her desk, pen hovering over an unsent letter. She began writing Daniel, "I still believe in us," but the words blurred with her tears. She whispered, "I can't keep waiting forever." Her hands trembled. As she imagined mailing it, imagining his reaction. Would he read it, or leave it unopened? She thought of Chloe Adams again, laughter echoing in her head like poison. The paper blurred with ink stains from her shaking hands. She tore the letter in half, then in pieces, unable to bear its weight. She whispered, "You promised love over distance," before her voice broke into sobs. The scraps lay scattered across the desk like shattered hope. Her body slumped forward, exhausted. She wanted his love to reach across miles, but all she had was silence, and silence was deafening. The pieces of paper whispered what she couldn't. Her heart was breaking. Emily sat by the window, watching rain trail down the glass, her phone silent in her lap. She whispered, "Daniel, where are you?" Her voice cracked as thunder rolled in the distance. She remembered his promise. "I'll always call after work." Days passed without his voice. Doubt grew like a storm inside her, drowning out fragile hope. She scrolled social media, her chest tightening at a photo of Daniel smiling with Chloe Adams nearby. Her breath caught. Was Chloe just a friend? She whispered, "Don't lie to me." The silence was worse than an answer. She longed to believe his love was enough to stretch across oceans, but fear told her otherwise. She curled into herself, eyes burning, wondering if love was slipping through her trembling hands. Rain beat harder against the window, echoing her heart's frantic rhythm. The next day, Emily waited for Daniel's call, eyes fixed on the clock. Midnight came and went. She muttered, "He promised tonight." Her chest ached as she clutched the phone tighter. Mark Turner called her instead, his voice steady. "Emily, he's not showing up for you." She replied, "He will. I know he will." Mark's silence spoke more than words, and tears welled in her eyes. The minutes dragged like hours, the buzzing of the empty room unbearable. She whispered, "I'm holding on, Daniel. Why aren't you?" Sleep would not come. She scrolled their old chats, replaying his words, "You're my forever," but forever now felt like a fading echo. Her body shook as if her hope was slipping through her fingers, dissolving with every unanswered call. Emily finally called Daniel, her heart racing as the line rang endlessly. She whispered, "Please answer." At last, he picked up. His voice was distant, distracted. "I'm busy, Emily." Her throat tightened. "Busy? I haven't heard from you in days." Daniel sighed. "Work is crazy, I can't always talk." She asked quietly, "But do you even want to?" Silence cut through the connection sharper than knives. She imagined Chloe Adams nearby, laughing at something he said. Her voice trembled. "Are you with her?" Daniel snapped, "Stop accusing me. I said I'm busy." The line went dead, leaving Emily frozen. She collapsed onto her bed, phone slipping from her grasp. Her chest heaved, every unanswered question twisting deeper. She whispered into the dark, "I'm losing you, aren't I?" Emily's world felt fractured. She wandered into the living room, where Mrs. Parker folded laundry. "You look drained," her mother said softly. Emily shook her head. "I'm fine." Her father glanced up from his chair. "Fine doesn't look like this." Emily's voice cracked. "You don't understand. I love him." Mr. Parker's eyes hardened. "Love isn't silence, Emily. Love shows up." She bit her lip, her chest trembling. "You want me to give up, but I can't." Her parents exchanged a look that felt heavier than words. Emily turned away, clutching her phone like a shield. Their disapproval pressed on her like a weight she couldn't escape. She wanted to scream that Daniel was worth it, but deep inside, doubt clawed louder than their warnings. That night, Emily sat alone on the balcony, city lights glowing below. She whispered into the night, "Daniel, why can't you choose me?" The cool wind carried her words away. Her heart felt raw, her chest hollow. She remembered the nights he stayed awake to call, his laughter across time zones, his voice promising a future. Now, every word felt like ash. She imagined Chloe Adams closer to him than she ever could be. She whispered bitterly, "She doesn't know what I've given up." Tears slid down her cheeks as she hugged herself tightly. She felt like a ghost haunting her own life. The city thrived beneath her, but she felt invisible, unheard, unwanted. She stared at her silent phone, waiting for it to light up, knowing it wouldn't. Her voice cracked. "Don't let this be the end." Emily's phone buzzed with a new message from Daniel Reed. Her chest tightened as she opened it. The words cut deep. "I've been spending time with Chloe Adams. I didn't want to hide it anymore." Her breath caught, the room spinning. She whispered, "No, you wouldn't." Memories collided. His promises, his reassurances, his insistence Chloe was just a friend. Lies unraveled like threads, leaving her exposed. Her hands shook as she typed back, "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" No reply came. The silence screamed louder than the confession itself. Emily's chest heaved with betrayal. She whispered into the emptiness, You gave her what you promised me. The air in her room thickened, pressing against her as if walls closed in. Her world collapsed into sharp fragments she couldn't gather. Tears blurred her vision as she clutched the phone to her chest, her body trembling violently. Emily stormed into the kitchen, eyes red, phone clenched in her fist. Mrs. Parker looked up in shock. "Emily, what's wrong?" Emily's voice cracked. "He's been with her, Chloe Adams. He lied to me." Mr. Parker lowered his paper, his expression grim. "I warned you. Distance breeds secrets." Emily's chest burned. "No, he promised me. He promised." Her voice trembled, but her rage fueled her words. She slammed the phone on the table, screen still glowing with betrayal. "I gave him everything. I waited. I sacrificed. And he gave it to someone else." Mrs. Parker reached for her, but Emily stepped back, her whole body shaking. "Don't touch me. I can't breathe," she whispered. Her parents' faces blurred behind her tears, their judgment and worry blending into unbearable weight. She grabbed her coat, desperate to escape the walls that suddenly felt like a cage. Emily met Mark Turner at the cafe, hands trembling as she slid the phone across the table. He read Daniel's message silently, jaw tightening. "Emily, this isn't love. It never was." She shook her head violently. "Don't say that. He loved me." Mark's voice softened. "He loved the idea of you waiting. He never gave you himself." Tears streamed down her cheeks. "I don't want to believe it." Mark placed his hand over hers, steadying her trembling grip. "Believe what's in front of you, Emily. He chose her." Her sobs broke through the cafe's quiet chatter, drawing a few glances, but she didn't care. Her chest felt carved open, every word from Mark pressing against her rawest wound. She whispered, "Then what am I?" He answered gently, "You're someone who deserves more than this pain." But her heart refused to accept it fully. Later that night, Emily stared at her laptop, fingers frozen above the keyboard. She had found Daniel's social profile, photos tagged with Chloe Adams at parties, smiling, their bodies too close. Her stomach churned. She whispered, "This is what you do when I wait by the phone." Her hands shook as she zoomed in on their smiles, her chest collapsing inward. She typed furiously, "You promised me love, Daniel. Instead, you gave me silence and her." She hovered over send, her breath shallow. Her screen blurred through tears, her reflection broken across the glass. The words on her screen burned into her eyes, evidence of betrayal she couldn't erase. She slammed the laptop shut and screamed into her hands, the sound muffled but fierce. Her whole body shook under the weight of the truth she could no longer deny. Emily walked into the bathroom, gripping the edges of the sink, staring at her reflection. Her face was pale, her eyes swollen. She whispered, "Who am I without him?" The silence answered coldly. She thought of Daniel Reed, laughing with Chloe Adams, their smiles etched like daggers in her mind. She whispered again, "You promised me forever." The words cracked in her throat. She slammed her fist on the counter, the sound echoing off the tiles. Tears blurred her reflection, transforming her face into a stranger's. She collapsed against the wall, sliding down until she hit the floor, hugging her knees. Her sobs filled the room, raw and unrestrained. The mirror loomed above, reflecting a woman broken by betrayal, yet clinging to fragments of faith. She closed her eyes, whispering once more, "Please, Daniel, don't let this be real." Emily's trembling hands dialed Daniel Reed's number, the line connecting after endless rings. His voice was curt. "Emily, what do you want?" Her breath shook. "I want the truth. Did you choose her?" Silence stretched, unbearable. Then his words came, cold and sharp. "Chloe makes things easier. She's here." Emily's world shattered. "Easier? I've given you everything," she cried. Her voice cracked like glass breaking. Daniel exhaled heavily. "You don't understand my life here. I can't keep pretending." Her chest burned. "Pretending? All those promises, every word you gave me, was it all a lie?" He snapped. "I never asked you to wait. Her sobs choked through the receiver. You didn't have to. I loved you. His silence answered more than words. Her body shook, the weight of betrayal consuming her, as his voice faded like an echo she could no longer reach. Emily's sobs turned into anger. You told me I was your forever, she shouted. Daniel's voice wavered. I thought I meant it then. Her rage boiled over. Then you lied every night you said you loved me. Daniel's tone hardened. Stop blaming me for everything. You chose to stay trapped in this fantasy. Emily's breath came ragged, her body trembling. I wasn't trapped. I believed you. The silence was jagged, painful. She whispered. Was I never enough? Daniel muttered. It's not about enough. It's about reality. Her heart split open, her voice turning to a whisper. Reality is you breaking me. The call ended abruptly, leaving her staring at the lifeless screen, her reflection warped by tears. She collapsed, screaming into the emptiness, her voice raw with agony. Emily rushed to Mark Turner's apartment, her fists pounding the door until he opened it, startled. She fell into his arms, sobbing uncontrollably. He chose her, Mark. He chose her. Mark held her tightly, his voice steady. Then, he never deserved you. She shook her head violently. I believed him. I believed every word. Her voice broke into fragments of grief. Mark lifted her face gently. Emily, look at me. His betrayal doesn't define you. She gasped through tears. Then, why does it feel like it does? Mark's eyes burned with fury for her pain. Because you gave him your whole heart. But you'll get it back, piece by piece. Her sobs quieted, though her chest still ached. She whispered, I don't know how to breathe without him. Mark held her tighter, whispering, You will. You have to. Emily sat alone later, replaying the call in her head. Daniel's words echoed, Chloe makes things easier. Her body shivered with rage and despair. She muttered, I wasn't supposed to be replaceable. She picked up the torn letter she once wrote him and whispered, You promised me distance couldn't break us. Her tears smudged the ink as she traced the broken words. Her chest heaved as she whispered, I gave you my nights, my faith, my future. The pain inside her felt unbearable, yet alive. She hurled the scraps across the room, their fluttering descent mocking her collapse. Her voice grew raw. You destroyed me with silence and lies. She fell to her knees, gripping the floor, sobs racking her frame. The promise of forever had turned into her deepest wound. Emily finally called Daniel again, her voice trembling with fire. Look at what you've done to me, she cried. He sounded weary. Emily, stop, she screamed. Stop? You stopped loving me first. Her sobs cut through her fury. You were supposed to be mine. Daniel's voice broke slightly. I can't give you what you want. Her chest felt like it was tearing. Then why did you promise me everything? He exhaled deeply. Because I wanted to believe it too. Her heart shattered at his confession. So, I was just a dream you woke up from. She whispered. Silence lingered before he muttered, Goodbye, Emily. The line went dead, final and cruel. She dropped the phone, her body crumbling with it, her scream echoing through the night like the death of her hope. Morning light seeped through Emily Parker's curtains, but her body felt heavy as stone. She whispered, He's gone, her voice cracking. She reached for the phone, only to find silence where his voice once lived. Her chest ached, but exhaustion dulled her sobs. She remembered Daniel Reed's last word, goodbye, burning like acid in her ears. She sat upright, staring at the mess of torn letters scattered across the floor. They felt like pieces of her own heart. She picked one up, but it only deepened the emptiness. Mrs. Parker's knock echoed softly. Emily, breakfast is ready. Emily closed her eyes. I can't eat. She pressed her forehead against the cold glass of her window, watching the street below bustle with life. The world had moved on, but she was frozen in grief. Her heart whispered faintly, I need to survive this. Emily stepped into the kitchen, hollow but determined. Mr. Parker glanced at her, lowering his paper. "You look broken, Emily," she whispered. "I am." Mrs. Parker reached across the table. "You'll heal." Emily's eyes brimmed with tears. "I don't know how." Her father sighed. "Time doesn't ask if you're ready, it forces you forward." The words stung, but she knew he was right. She picked up a slice of toast, holding it without appetite. Mrs. Parker brushed her hand gently. "You don't have to face this alone." Emily looked down, gripping her phone tightly. Her voice was a whisper. "Then why does it feel like I do?" Her parents exchanged a look of worry, but stayed silent, their presence quiet but grounding. For the first time in days, Emily took a small bite, the taste bitter but real. A fragile beginning. Later, Emily sat on a park bench with Mark Turner. The air was crisp, leaves scattering in the wind. She whispered, "It hurts to breathe." Mark's eyes softened. "That's grief, Emily. It feels endless, but it won't be." Her eyes filled with tears. "He replaced me so easily." Mark shook his head firmly. "That says more about him than it does about you." She looked down, twisting her hands together. "Then why does it feel like I wasn't enough?" Mark leaned closer, his voice steady. "Because you gave too much of yourself to someone who never valued it." Emily's lip trembled. "How do I let go?" He placed his arm gently around her. "One day at a time." She closed her eyes, letting the wind sting her cheeks, and whispered, "Then today is day one." Emily walked alone downtown, the crowd moving swiftly around her. Each passing couple felt like a knife, but she kept walking. She whispered, "I won't disappear." The city noise drowned her thoughts, yet inside, silence still echoed. She paused at a bookstore window, remembering how Daniel Reed once promised, "We'll fill shelves with books together." She felt her throat tighten, but instead of turning away, she stepped inside. The air smelled of old paper, grounding her. She picked up a journal, running her fingers across its blank pages. "Maybe I'll write instead of wait," she murmured. For the first time her voice didn't break. She walked to the counter, purchasing it with trembling but steady hands. Each step out the door felt like a rebellion against the emptiness, a small act of choosing herself. That night, Emily sat at her desk, opening the journal. She wrote, "He promised love over distance, but delivered distance over love." The words bled across the page, her tears falling softly. She whispered, "This isn't the end of me." She imagined Daniel Reed far away, his laughter belonging to someone else, but it no longer shattered her the same way. Her body still ached, but her hand kept writing. "I will not let silence define me." She closed the book, exhaling deeply, her chest heavy but not broken. For the first time in weeks, she let the phone rest on the desk, untouched. She whispered to herself, "Tomorrow, I'll begin again." Outside the night hummed, not with betrayal, but with the promise of survival. The ache lingered, but so did the strength to endure. Emily sat by the window, rain streaking down the glass, her journal open in her lap. She whispered, "I gave him my heart, and he gave it away." Her reflection stared back at her, pale and weary, yet alive. She remembered Daniel Reed's laughter, once her anchor, now her wound. She touched her phone but didn't unlock it. Instead, she whispered, "No more." She let silence fill the room, not as a curse, but as her decision. The ache throbbed, but it no longer owned her. She closed her eyes, breathing deeply, the sound of rain masking her heartbeat. Her lips trembled as she whispered, "He can't take me with him anymore." For the first time, her words felt like strength, even though they were soaked in pain. Emily walked through the park alone, the air crisp, leaves crunching under her shoes. She whispered, "This is mine now, my life." Every step felt like reclaiming something lost. She thought of Mark Turner's words, "You'll get your heart back piece by piece." She smiled faintly through tears. The ache remained, but so did the will to move forward. Couples walked past her, laughter floating in the breeze, and though it hurt, she didn't turn away. She sat on a bench, pulled her journal out and wrote, "I survived him." Her chest rose with a shaky breath. She whispered, "And I'll survive tomorrow too." The weight was still there, but she was learning to carry it. Back at home, Emily sat with her parents. Mrs. Parker brushed her daughter's hair gently. "You're stronger than you know," Emily whispered. "It doesn't feel like it." Mr. Parker spoke firmly, but softly. "Strength isn't about feeling, it's about enduring." Emily nodded faintly, her chest aching. She whispered, "I wanted him to fight for me." Mrs. Parker kissed her forehead. "Then fight for yourself now." Tears blurred her eyes, but warmth seeped into her chest. For the first time, she let herself lean against them, not in defeat, but in fragile healing. She whispered into the quiet, "I'll try." Their silence carried acceptance, not judgment, and Emily realized survival didn't mean being alone. It meant letting others hold her when she fell. Emily met Mark Turner once more at the cafe. She smiled faintly as she sipped her coffee. "It still hurts," she admitted. Mark nodded. "It will, but it won't always." She whispered, "I thought love was supposed to save me." Mark's eyes softened. "Sometimes love saves you by breaking you free." She stared at him, his words settling like stones in her chest. For the first time she didn't feel the urge to defend Daniel Reed. She simply whispered, "Then maybe this is freedom." Mark smiled, small but proud. "Exactly." Emily looked out the window, the world alive with motion, and whispered to herself, "I'll learn how to live again." The words felt like a seed, fragile but real. That night, Emily sat at her desk, phone buzzing once with Daniel Reed's name. She stared at it, her chest tightening, but she didn't reach for it. Instead, she whispered, "No more." She let it ring until it stopped, silence flooding the room. She opened her journal and wrote one final line. He promised love over distance, but delivered distance over love. She closed the book, her tears falling softly, but her lips curled into the faintest smile. She whispered, "And that was the last time his name ever lit up my phone." The words sealed themselves inside her like a scar, painful, yet unforgettable. She leaned back, eyes closed, breathing slowly. For the first time in weeks, she felt the smallest spark of peace.